What is happening, peeps and peepettes? My name is Jake. Welcome to the channel. We're just here to talk today about a book I read recently that I had the most interesting time reading, and that was Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. If you don't know, you need to know. If you're a guy or if you just hate bureaucracy in general, if you hate government in general, this book is for you, okay? This book is for you. Written and set in World War II, just absolutely funny here to there. It's one that I definitely had to give a Goodreads 5 out of 5 for. Not that that really matters or whatnot. But I want to dive into this and really talk about some things that I saw in this book and really, ask some questions here or there about plot points and what I hear from X, Y, or Z. So, before we go any further, I just want to let you know, why am I talking about this kind of stuff? Well, I myself am actually an author. I am not popular in any single way. I am what you call somebody who is indie AF, to the point where it's just like, dude, why are you even writing? And the reason why is because, well, it's fun for me. Anyway, if you ever want to check any of my stuff out, just email me. I'll happily send you a digital copy of any book of mine in my catalog that you want, probably, because real talk, if no one ever reads anything of yours, then did you actually have a product worthwhile? Anyway, back to the most important part of this whole entire thing, which is just this book right here, which, by the way, apparently Hulu did a series on, which is kind of cool. I can see George Clooney on there. I'm just going to guess right there that he was playing the colonel of the base, the one, not Colonel Corn, but the other colonel, Colonel Cathcart. I'm guessing he's playing Colonel Cathcart. That's my guess right there. I'm probably wrong, but whatever. Just the fact that I see Clooney on there is cool because I'm a huge Clooney fan. Always have been, because Clooney is the shiz. Anyway, I'll bet you he played Cathcart, that absolute chunkus. Anyway, so the book right here, it's funny because the humor is right up my alley as far as just being slapstick, to the bone, will lose you throughout. Dude, it is a confusing read at first, though, because two reasons why. One, the humor overrides the plot in a lot of points, and you ask yourself at times during the first 200 pages, which the first 200 pages is kind of where the actual narrative of the cast is put into play, where you're understanding who is X and who is Y, who are the tropes, who are not the tropes. And the story, for the fact the first 200 pages is told completely out of order, only with the point of explaining to you who the characters actually are and why every single character hates every single other person or loves every other single person. And you meet this amazing cast of characters. You got Yossarian, who is doing everything possible to get sent home or to get, possibly discharged, or even, put into the medical ward for eternity. But he just can't get out of it. And as part of it is the Catch-22 phrase, which comes about from this book, actually, which is basically it's a circuitous measure of thought that you can't escape from because the logic is just not there. And that's kind of the idea of it. You can see it right here in this picture. I'm going to go pull it up. By the way, spoilers ahead because, spoilers. So, right there. Are you concerned for your own... This is basically the conversation right there. Are you concerned for your own safety in flying missions? This is when he's trying to get out of... it's when he's trying to get out of flying missions. Are you concerned for your own safety in flying missions? Well, the answer is no. Okay, then you continue flying missions. Are you concerned for your own safety in flying these missions? Well, the answer is yes. This is rational, so you cannot be exempted from the grounds on insanity. And that's basically the idea behind it, is that, well, if you were insane, we could, basically the doctor, just says, hey, if you were insane, we could stop having you fly missions. Absolutely, we could stop having you fly missions right now if you were insane. Saurian. I'm insane. Look at me. I'm running around butt-ass naked. I don't like being here. I'm running around butt-ass naked. Okay. Yeah, but you're not insane. Why not? Because you fear for your life, so you clearly are sane, because an insane person would not fear for his life. Well, what about Orr over there? Orr is getting shot down every single time he goes in the plane. Yeah. or is absolutely insane. Well, then why don't you ground him? Well, because he doesn't ask me to ground him. And that's the whole entire point of the logic. And these kind of things pop back and forth throughout because they have these recurring jokes that pop up every single chapter, essentially. And you get trapped. You see the futility of any kind of logic in the show, in the motions of anything, because you have people like the Doctor, like Cathcart, who's just constantly trying to undermine everything and does these incredibly impersonal bullshits that actually just completely deride everything of the war effort. We see Asarian himself, who's deriding all types of things by creating a fictitious person that ends up creating government resources of multiple individuals sent to the camp to inspect, who this Washington Irving and who Irving Washington is, even though none of them actually exist. You have, the chaplain who's being constantly underridden by his own lieutenant, who thinks highly of himself, even though he does things that are completely irrational and stupid. And then it's funny because in the entirety of the show, sorry, not the show, I didn't watch the show. I'm sorry, I'm looking at this picture right here that has the pictures of the Hulu series, which I didn't know they had a Hulu series. Apparently they have a Hulu series. That sounds interesting. Again. But the whole entire interesting dynamic of this whole entire thing is that finally, when the plot starts being straight and going onward, when they finally bury Snowden, is kind of when they start telling the story forward at that point. And that's kind of the spot where all of a sudden it goes from being an amalgamation of random anecdotes to being a straightforward story. But Heller doesn't really tell you that. He just kind of lets you figure it out, which can take away from the enjoyment a little bit here or there, but I still enjoyed it. What really got me concerned at times is that I seeing back on people afterwards, a lot of folks will look at this and go, "This is so anti-war. This is so anti-war." And I could see how you would think that, or how you could think that. In reality, to me, what I see from reading this is that it's more of a commentary on how postmodernism has destroyed warfare, or modernism has destroyed warfare. Modernism, postmodernism, same time frame. The book's written in the 50s, about the 40s. So during that time period, we're seeing postmodernism rise to take over a lot of the mainstream thought processes, whereas modernism was already prevalent at that point in time. What is postmodernism? Postmodernism is the idea of the individual magnified to the point in which truth is relative and nothing is certain. And essentially, in a lot of ways, nihilism. That's probably a haphazard and mostly incorrect view of what postmodernism is, but that'll serve the purpose of explaining what I'm trying to talk about here. And what was interesting to me is that when you read this book, you can see how there are moments that are clearly anti-war. Every single person in Yossarian's outfit, except for the really crazy folks, like Havemeyer, let's see, Dunbar, McWatt, a couple of those crazy bastards, Clevinger, they don't really care, because everyone in his group is a pilot or a pilot officer, because everyone in his camp is like basically the officers of the pilot corps for these bomber squads. And the interesting thing is that they're already at a point in the war where the Germans aren't flying resistance planes at them anymore. Sorry, I'm distracted by this dark area. Do I need to shave better? I need to shave better. Holy cow. Anyway, enjoy the terrible facial hair compressions, whatever. Oh gosh. Anyway, distracting. I'm like trying to hope it's actually like something. Whatever, I'll deal with that tomorrow or tonight. Tonight. But anyway, so you have this thing where all these officers are doing their absolute best to get out of duty, except for the crazy ones. But it's so funny to me because throughout the entirety of this series, of the show, of the book, you have so many different people die. You have McWatt. You have you have the kid, the 15-year-old, who gets killed. You have Clevinger who gets killed. Havemeyer who gets killed. You have Orr who gets killed. Spoiler alert. You have Snowden who gets killed. You have Dunbar who disappears. Gets disappeared. You have all these guys, and then you have Nate. You have Nately. Man, Nately. I feel bad for Nately. But anyway, you get all of these guys. Chief Whitecloth. You have all these guys who either die, go missing, or die. And it's like you have the upper management who are just doing random bullshit, completely oblivious to the fact of anything in the war. You have the mid officers, the commissioned officers, and that are just dealing with the bullshit as best they possibly can. And then, of course, you have the enlisted men who are just existing that aren't even talked about because they don't exist. And to me, it's just one of the funniest things because it showcases how bureaucracy over and over can deride actual warfare. And I was talking about postmodernism as well. We'll get to that in a second. But bureaucracy in general is where I see the biggest commentary or social commentary from this entire novel. It's not even really about anti-war. Because so many of the deaths in this squadron that's stationed off Pianosa, so many of the deaths in the squadron, the majority of them are not attributed to the war. They're not. They're attributed to stupidity and jackassery. You got people that are of everyone in the entire party that has a named character. You have only Clevinger, Snowden, Havemeyer, and Nately. Only those four die in actual combat. Meanwhile, everyone else that dies in the entirety of the novel dies because of stupid jackassery back on base. You have Chief Whitecloth, who dies from the flu or pneumonia. I forget which one it was off the top of my head, sorry. But he dies from that because he's like, well, it's just my time. Thankfully for him, he didn't find oil on the base. Otherwise, he would have died sooner. Inside joke there. You have Orr, who is perceived dead in combat, but really just crashed his own plane so he could then paddle himself to Sweden. You have you have the people in the medical wing who are being killed or either intentionally or unintentionally because of mistaken identities because they're switching beds all the time and getting the wrong dosage and stuff. You have the 15-year-old in the Corps who dies because his legs are cut off by McWatt, who's being an absolute dumbass. You have Dunbar, who's disappeared because he's questioning authority. You have, just so many other people that are just either, and then you have Milo, who's bombing his own base because the Germans are paying him, while he's running the camp's, infinite syndicate of salesmanship across the entire European and Mediterranean Sea. He's basically running an international cartel through the means of the military operations. And so over and over again throughout the book, it's not anti-war, it's anti-bureaucracy. And it's bureaucracy which is born of a desire to seem like you care even though you don't. Which is what bureaucracy is. Bureaucracy is the appearance of caring without actually caring due to paperwork. It's putting it on paper that you care when really you don't at all. For instance, they have, censoring of letters. They have 3 different people checking into Washington Irving's existence, even though Washington Irving does not exist at all on the base. They have the chaplain getting court-martialed and cornered for a bit, only to then be released like 5 minutes later after he already confessed. And he's like, well, you confessed. Well, what's a punishment? We don't know. And then just release him back. You have the doctor who is on base, but is told that he's dead. His wife is told that he's dead. He tries to tell his wife across the seas, "Hey, I'm not actually dead." Meanwhile, she cashes out all of his life insurance policies, and the most impersonal letter ever from the colonel comes, that was set up by the chaplain's, stupid corporal, that says, the most impersonal bullcrap ever. That's not even, like it's like a template sheet that wasn't changed off the template and sent out to the doctor's widow. And then even worse, now he's stuck on base and he's just confused, like, what do I do? I can't be a doctor anymore because they don't want me in the medical wing anymore, and they're going to kill me if I go back in there, and they won't even feed me, so I have to do things for Milo's syndicate, otherwise I'll starve to death. You have Flume, who won't even go into his tent because he's pretty sure that Whitecoat is going to kill him. You have somebody who dies in their sleep because someone's cat slept on his face and suffocated him. I forget who that was. Golly, who was that? The point is that almost the majority of the deaths in the squadron are related to jackassery and to try to attempts to feel like they care instead of actually caring. For instance, Nately's whore is running around all over the military bases and trying to stab Yossarian every 5 minutes because for some reason she equates his death with him specifically rather than the fact that he just got unlucky on the one mission that he got unlucky on. And the more you read it and the more you think about it, I don't understand how you could really read it and say that it's a fully anti-war book and really just say it's an anti-bureaucracy and anti-postmodernism in warfare book. Because, for instance, you have the Major de Coverley. Nobody knows his first name, and the author actually doesn't even put his first name in the book. But he is pretending to be a dutiful major, when in reality, anytime they go capture a really high value city, he's at the very head of the military column, flies in the day of to make sure that he's the first one on the military column, so that way he can find the best apartment for his men to go vacation at. And then you realize this is warfare, but every 4 minutes somebody's in Rome either banging a hooker or banging a hooker. Or they're in Florence banging a hooker. And it's just funny to me over and over again that they spend more time banging hookers in Florence than they do fighting the war. Kind of the same way that we had the problems with Vietnam, where so many of the soldiers were spending times in Phuket and Bangkok, doing heroin and being and jacking off rather than actually fighting the war. Which is kind of the problem of postmodernism in general, because there's no longer a die-hard mentality of, we're here, these are my 10,000 men, we're going to go charge at them and kill them all, and we're going to stay in formation and kill them all. No, it's constant vacations, it's constant checking up on people, it's constant doing this, doing that, doing these things. And then you have people like Cathcart, and Milo even, who Milo is like, at the very end of the book, he goes, "Hey, I've only flown 4 missions." Cathcart, well, that's wonderful, Milo. That's much more than me. I've only flown 3. Yeah, but I'm supposed to have 70. Yes, you are. Well, I don't have 70. Well, how many do you have? Well, I have 5. Well, does that include the time that you bombed us? Yeah. Well, okay. So, you're doing the Lord's work, Milo. You can't be replaced. You're an amazing syndicate operator. I know, but the problem is that how am I going to get these missions? Well, we'll just have everybody else fly the missions for you in your name. Oh, okay, that'll work. Cathcart, same thing. I'm indispensable. I can't be up in the air flying in the missions. And you have that over and over again. And then, of course, you have the best character of all time. Major. who, because of his name, gets promoted crazily, just to then get, he gets promoted all the way up to major, just to then do nothing and avoid any responsibility whatsoever because he knows he's not qualified. He has no basis to make any decisions whatsoever military wise, and thus he has his personal like secretary, who is an officer, to basically run interference for them, and he just comes and goes through his office window at all times. Nobody's allowed in his office when he's there, and the only time that you're allowed in the office when he's not there. And then, of course, don't even get me started on Yossarian, who gets promoted all the way to captain whenever he's doing crazy things like running back through a mission that ends up getting Clevenger killed, intentionally missing his bomb trails, all those kind of things, getting commissioned and awarded his captain rank by General Dreedum, butt-ass naked. And he's like, I'm not wearing clothes. Well, sounds like a great idea. Well, why doesn't he wear clothes? Well, I mean, it's just a bad idea. Point is, though, is that when you think about war, did they have these problems before postmodernism, before the concept of self, before the concept of caring for your people? I don't think they did. Sure, there are movies that want to make it seem like that, like there was parts of it in them. There's always going to be rogues of that. Like you look at Dances with Wolves. Dances with Wolves, of course, is a movie written and produced at the height of postmodernism thought in the 90s, or late 80s, early 90s. And with that, you see these soldiers doing their best to get out of shooting each other, to get out of violence. So I'm sure there were always people that were like that, but was it the prevalent thought at that point in time? I don't know. You talk to the people that were actually ground soldiers, or, well, you don't talk to them now because they're all dead at this point, but you look back at the World War II documentaries. You look back at, Band of Brothers and Saving Private Ryan, and you listen to the documentaries of the people behind those stories. Granted, Saving Private Ryan was a fiction, but there were a lot of real events that happened and were taking place in there. You listen to those guys tell their stories, and they were volunteering for this. They were signing up, ready to go kill some Germans, right? Granted, all those guys were infantry, whereas the pilots the pilots bomber groups are at what's taking place in Catch-22. So what I want to say more again is just ask you the question of, is this really an anti-war book? Is this really an anti-war story? Or just an anti-futility of bureaucracy in its attempt to circumvent the purpose of a war, which is to accomplish it and win? Because everything done in the book is not in any way to accomplish a war, but to service the individual person involved in it in that moment. Is it a bad thing? I don't think so. But it's something that I think has changed drastically in the last 100 years, where warfare today is not fought by a cavalcade of humans resolved under one mission, or at least beaten into that place by authoritarian drill sergeants with the harshest of intentions and the hardening of troops in mind. That wouldn't happen today, I fear. You look back at World War I. World War I, there were times, like the Battle of the Somme, where you had people that are in these trenches. They know if they lift their head up at all, they're going to probably die. And then you have officers who are collectively saying, we're charging, and then thousands and thousands of men do what they're told. That wouldn't happen today, I don't think. And I think Catch-22 just notices that potential shift in dynamic and understanding of the individual that persisted early in the Air Force, which would be the people that are most likely or most desiring to actually avoid conflict. But then you have what it would be now today for the regular enlisted men. And perhaps they would have the same experiences as far as bureaucracy and its problem in finalizing or producing a war. Because winning a war is very different nowadays, I feel. Because it's no longer wars of conquest. We don't fight wars of conquest anymore. We fight wars of corporatism or wars of oppression or wars of ideology. So, I don't know. What do you think? What is your Catch-22 in this line of thinking? Do you feel this is truly an anti-war book? Or do you feel like I do, where it's more of a commentary on the stupidity and futility of bureaucracy? On how the individual can only get in the way of the production of a warfare? And what do you think happened to Nately's Whore? There is a sequel book that I will probably read at some point. But yeah, what do you guys think? Absolute great read, by the way. Insane humor throughout it. There are so many times where I was reading this at the gym or at a coffee shop, and I'm belting out in laughter in public. Anyway, guys, this is me just thinking out loud. I hope you have a halfway decent day. I'm probably wrong in everything that I think, and that's okay.